Right now, as you're watching this, there are trillions of microscopic machines inside your body, all hard at work. They're building, they're repairing, they're defending you. And they're not made of metal or silicon, they're made of proteins. So today, we are going to pull back the curtain on these master builders and see how they construct everything from your hair to your hormones. Trust me, understanding proteins is the key to understanding life itself.
All right, let's kick things off with a little puzzle. Think about it. What do the muscles that let you move, the hair on your head, and the immune system that fights off germs, what do they all have in common? It might seem random, but the answer is a single, incredibly versatile type of molecule.
And that molecule is, you guessed it, protein. Proteins are truly the unsung heroes of the body. They're responsible for pretty much everything that keeps you alive and kicking, from the tiniest chemical reactions to the actual strength of your bones.
Okay, let's get a little technical for just a second. The official definition sounds super complicated. Nitrogenous substances made up of amino acid residues joined together by a peptide linkage. Whoa! But don't let the big words fool you. All that really means is that a protein is just a long, fancy chain made up of smaller, repeating parts. That's it.
So, if proteins are the final, amazing structure, what are those smaller parts? Well, the best way to think about them is like Lego bricks. You can have a huge pile of Legos, right? But it's how you snap them together that creates a car, a castle, or a spaceship. In our bodies, these little biological bricks are called amino acids. So each one of these little bricks has a standard structure, an amino group on one end and an acidic group on the other. But what makes each one different and special is this thing called a side chain, or R group. This little attachment gives each amino acid its own unique personality. Some love water, some hate it, some are big and bulky, others are tiny. And that personality is what decides how the final protein is going to fold up and what its job is going to be.
And here is where things get really incredible. Nature has hundreds of different amino acids, but our bodies build the entire vast, complex machinery of life using a core set of just 20. Seriously, think about that. From only 20 fundamental building blocks, you get every single protein that makes life possible. It's wild.
But, and this is a really big but, there's a catch. Your body can't actually make all 20 of these little bricks from scratch. Some of them we absolutely have to get from our food. And this brings us to a super important idea in nutrition.
We basically split these 20 amino acids into two groups. You've got your non-essential amino acids. Our bodies are amazing little factories that can cook these up all on their own. But then you have the essential amino acids. They're called essential because it is absolutely essential that we get them from our diet. Our body just doesn't have the recipe book to make them. So, where do we find them? Well, in our food. Animal sources like meat, eggs, and dairy are often called first-class proteins because they've got all the essential amino acids you need in one convenient package. Plant sources like beans and grains are called second-class proteins because a single source might be missing one or two. But, and this is a really key point, you can totally get everything you need from plants. You just have to mix things up. Think rice and beans together. That combination gives you the complete set.
Okay, so we've got our 20 amino acid building blocks. Now for the fun part. How do we go from a simple chain of bricks to a complex, working machine? It all comes down to shape. First things first, you gotta link those blocks together. This happens with something called a peptide bond. It's basically a super strong chemical glue that connects one amino acid to the next, forming a long, flexible chain. Kind of like beads on a string.
Now, this chain goes through this incredible four-stage folding process. The primary structure is just the order of the amino acids, like the specific sequence of letters in a word. Then, that string starts to twist into coils or fold into flat sheets, which we call the secondary structure. After that, the entire thing folds and scrunches up on itself into a very specific 3D shape, like a complex piece of origami. That's the tertiary structure. And for the really big jobs, sometimes multiple folded chains will come together to form one giant superprotein. That's the quaternary structure.
And this brings us to what is probably the single most important rule in all of protein biology. Structure dictates function. A protein's specific, complicated, final 3D shape is everything. It's what gives it its unique job. It is not a random tangle. It's a precisely engineered machine. If you mess up the shape, you break the machine. Simple as that. And wow, what a variety of jobs these machines have. Now that we know how they're built, let's open up the protein playbook and see what these amazing shapes are actually doing for us every single second. I mean, the to-do list for a protein is just staggering. They're enzymes making chemical reactions happen millions of times faster. They're transporters like hemoglobin, which grabs oxygen in your lungs and delivers it all over your body. They're your personal bodyguards, antibodies that hunt down and neutralize viruses and bacteria. They are your scaffolding, like collagen for your skin and bones and keratin for your hair. They're the engines that make you move, with actin and myosin powering every muscle contraction. And they're messengers, like the hormone insulin that manages your body's energy. They literally do it all.
But what happens when this super intricate building process fails? What if you don't have the right materials? Or what if there's a mistake in the genetic blueprints? Well, as you can imagine, the consequences can be pretty serious.
One of the biggest issues is something called protein-calorie malnutrition, or PCM for short. It's basically a group of health problems that happen when a person's diet is seriously lacking in protein.
And what's really fascinating is that PCM can show up in two very different ways. With marasmus, it's a general lack of all calories, which leads to that emaciated look and severe muscle wasting. But with kwashiorkor, the main problem is specifically a lack of protein, even if someone is getting enough calories. And this causes a totally different symptom, massive swelling, called edema, particularly in the hands, feet, and belly.
But it's not always about a lack of ingredients from our diet. Sometimes the problem is baked right into our genes. For instance, a tiny mistake in the blueprint for collagen, our body's main structural protein, can lead to a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, also known as brittle bone disease, where a person's bones can break with even the slightest pressure.
So here's what it all boils down to. Proteins are constantly building, running, and repairing your entire internal world. They are the master builders, working 24/7 on everything from your immune system to the very framework of your body. So the final question is really for you. Are you giving your builders the high-quality materials they need to get the job done right?